What time's, oh, it's 1:30. Good?
I wanted to have some pictures of like you and your youth.
Me and my what?
Your like appropriate age pictures
Oh,
from when
gotcha,
we're speaking.
gotcha.
But I just have
Yeah.
to paint the picture.
Well, fuck. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. Don't make it something that,
Okay, go ahead.
you know, this big ass production because just, just be in the moment.
We're
So
both
we're,
on?
Yep.
All right.
so we're good right there. That's going to sit there and we're good.
Yep.
All right, cool. Do we need, oh, you got it going right there. Okay. Peace, bitch.
All
All
right,
right.
let's get down to it.
Let's do it. What are we
So-
talking about?
Okay, so what I wanted to do today is just hear your story. And the way I think about doing this is kind of from the beginning to where you are now. You've, in the short time I've been here at the office, you've been at
Which has been
Influence.
what?
3 weeks.
I was going to say not even a month.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And, I really did.
I like how we have these microphones, but they're not even hooked up. These are a ploy.
Yo, John?
This is our microphone.
Yeah. But we, I really joined Wentworth Real Estate Group on a Holy Spirit move.
Because you could have went anywhere, probably, right? I mean, we all say that, but I mean, with a good chance, you could have made a lot of different choices.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just felt it. And I made my move based on that feeling, which I do like to do. I'd rather be led by the Lord than led by my intellect.
Yeah.
So I don't really know a lot about you, John.
No. Well,
I'm
so
gonna be honest.
even leading up to that, though, what even got you to the chair to have those conversations in the beginning, right? I think that's what's interesting because, I mean, how many deals that you and I have done together? Just you and I.
A couple.
I mean,
Just
maybe
a couple,
one or two,
yeah.
way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Back
probably-
when you were at Platinum.
Yeah, way back in the day,
Yeah.
before any of this existed. So, from the outside looking in, what even brought you that far to come and want to be here in the first place? I love how this is supposed to be.
Yeah,
your
I
interview,
know.
and now I'm fucking
He's interviewing me now.
Yeah.
A little switch there. No, I actually.
'Cause I think that's the
When you
story.
put your office downtown Brighton, I saw the Wentworth sign. It like triggered something in me, and I was like a little bit pissed, to be honest with you, because in my mind, I live in the area, and I've thought about like downtown Brighton would be an awesome place to have your office. So in my mind, I've always watched it. So one day I decided I'm gonna call and find out what's going on there because I didn't see a whole lot of action, and I'm like, is it good? Is it bad? Are they? Just didn't really know.
Are you talking about the office itself?
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
just the storefront.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm like, who should I call? I know.
So you reached out.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yep.
But that's kind of what triggered it. But
Yep.
you also have. I mean, you've done a ton of not with me, but with a ton of our agents.
Yes. So we've had the core relationship through the builder I work for years, where
Right.
the agents would bring customers into the new construction. We take good care of them. On
You
that.
do. I think that's always been one of the things like that. You guys, I think agents typically, and if you're a builder, then you should take heed to this. But typically, agents feel builders are trying to cheat them out of deals.
Correct.
Why? Well, because very often they are, right? They jump
Well-
over a dime to save a nickel. Or
And
let's
that's
say-
another.
Yes. Jump over a nickel to save a
And
dime.
that's a good lead into how I got here, because a lot of my business protocol was B2B, me to agent. So in that, I really enjoyed working with the agents
Yeah.
versus selling. I mean,
Sure,
you said it
sure.
this morning.
Yeah.
You want to grow and change and do different things. So working with agents has been more passionate than selling the homes.
Got it.
So yeah, that's what brought me in, and just a couple meetings with you and Adam, and
Yeah.
set a spark on fire inside
Well, and you
me.
came to a couple team meetings first, right?
And looking out in the team meeting, knowing Jake, knowing Adam, knowing
Right.
Andy,
All from the sales world.
exactly, and just kind of feeling like it's family.
Yeah.
And I love that you pray before your meetings.
Yeah.
I love that the infusion lady came. And I got a B12
You got a
shot.
buckshot.
I got a buckshot the first or second day I was
I think
here.
you got adjusted that week.
Yeah, then the next week
Yeah.
I get adjusted. I'm like, wait a minute. And then there's a gym in the basement, and I've kind of let working out go probably for 2 to 3 years now. And I'm like, this is going to get me in shape.
But now you're in a commitment group.
Yes.
And committed to working out.
Yep.
You haven't been working out with us though.
Yes. Well, today I
Are
work
you?
out Tuesdays and Thursdays.
At
with
3:30
Adam.
with Adam.
Yep.
Nice.
So that's been going good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do want to get to your group so I can climb the wall backwards. Someday.
It's overrated.
Yeah, someday you'll see me climb the wall. It looks good. It looks good on paper.
So I think that's interesting, right? To like I talked about today, most people have an opportunity to go anywhere. What's the value in anywhere? I don't know. I just know where the value is here. You know what I mean? And I think it's beyond just work or beyond just leads or beyond just real estate, because I think that it's, well, what was the question that I asked the group today, right? What's your primary focus?
Yeah.
And if your primary focus is just me, and money, man, it's a shallow life.
Yeah.
And to try to help people learn that and understand that, but then also at the same time know that I can help shape that primary focus to be something greater than just that, something very big, I guess you would say, and then support those secondary focuses provided for my family, making six figures, whatever the hell people want to do, right? Because
it comes with it.
It comes with it. It's but that primary focus is what I think as a whole. And I think this ties back to our faith, right? I think our faith helps us understand our primary focus, that it's not about me.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's one of the things, the driving things for me, is I'm always trying to help people understand that you can do that and have all the fruitfulness that you desire inside of a business. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah. No, I see your vision. I think that's part of the reason that I'm here, is because I do see a vision, and I do feel that there is so much more to what you're bringing to the area. This time and place is made for what you're doing, and I'm just really excited to be part of it. And I think it's gonna be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, so he tried to digress and get me to talk about me.
Well,
We're back on John.
Give him a little bit of insight to how you even ended up here, because I think that's important.
Absolutely. So.
But if this is like a 3 or a 5 part episode,
yeah,
we probably shouldn't start it when I'm 1. Because I was shot out of a vagina, just like all of you. And so, but unlike most people, my birthday is just another day to me. I show up, I go to work, I grind. I actually have this feeling like that is the day that I should even do more. So often on people's birthday, they're like, well, it's about me again.
Yeah.
No, to me, that's the day that I honor that even happening, the fact that I'm a human being, and that I'm honoring my God, is that I'm going to go do even more for other people on my birthday.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, because I do want to talk about when that transition happened. Did it happen when you were young?
Which transition?
Transition, like putting God.
Oh, gosh, that happened when I was 35.
So 35?
Yeah. I never went to church my entire life. I mean, my grandma took me, but I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I was young. And
what type of church?
Oh, gosh. I had 2 grandmothers, and they both were different. One was First Pres downtown Flint, so Presbyterian, and the other, I have no clue.
Okay.
It was the church across the street from McLaren Hospital.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I can tell you based on what
location.
Yeah, what it's near.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I never went to church when I was young. I was raised by a single dad, or single parent, my dad, and that just wasn't a thing. And so my journey with that began when I say 35, it was probably 10 years ago. So I'm 50, going on 49, so I was 39.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm guessing. It was a while ago, right?
But something propels you into that deeper relationship. I mean, you wear it well. I mean, you're not, it's very authentic to me.
Well,
the relationship with Christ.
It didn't propel me into it deeper. It showed me what it really meant, because I didn't know. I wasn't seeking it. I actually, at that point in my life, up until I was, so I guess I was probably 39, because it was up till I was about 35. I was broken, all fucked up, had no direction in my life, and then I made a choice to get my shit together. And through that, as I got into real estate, started having a little bit of success, started growing a little bit, being able to actually pay my bills instead of worry about my bills. That reached that point, you're like, oh, I got it going on now.
Yeah.
And I think that's when God is like, oh, you dummy, you haven't figured it out yet.
Right. You had all the pieces, but not the main piece.
Yeah. And so I actually, people started asking me to go to this retreat, and a few different people started asking me, and of course it was no. And finally I'm like, well, and selfishly I was like, well, shit, it might be good for business. I'll meet all these people.
Right.
And then I cried for 3 days straight, and it was just, it changed changed everything.
Changed the dynamic of where you were going.
Changed everything. Changed my outlook on everything. Changed my outlook on.
Was it a men's retreat? What was it?
It was a men's retreat.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And where was it?
At St. John's.
St.
here
John's.
in Fenton.
Okay.
Yep. And so I came out of that, and then I stayed in the group for they do well at the time they did one every 2 years. I stayed in that group, and then I actually spoke and presented at that retreat and told my story for the first time ever, right? And then I stayed involved, and I led I think 4 more. So I was involved for almost from the time that I first went until that I was out for like 3 years.
What was the big gravy at the retreat?
Forgiveness.
What was it?
Forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiving yourself, God forgiving you.
Well, I think really, because we hear, oh man, that person forgave the person that is on trial for killing their son. How can that be? Well, you wouldn't know how that can be unless you know the grace of God.
Yeah.
Right? And so it was just really like understanding forgiveness as a whole, not me to you, not you to me, like you said, B2B business. Right. No, understanding sales as a whole, B2B, A to B, whatever it is, understanding forgiveness as a whole, whatever that is, and really what forgiveness, the freedom that forgiveness gives ourselves. But for me in that moment, it was forgiving my mom, it was forgiving my dad, it was forgiving myself. Like I said, just all around forgiveness.
And did that just come like bam and it hit you? I mean, you showed up, so you made the choice to be there, and that no matter how you chose to be there, it created an opening for God to work.
Yep.
And did it come on all at once, like
I think there were steps that you walk through that break down those barriers at this retreat to get you, I think, to that point of acceptance. And then from there, what you discover or how open you remain to the Holy Spirit, and I think that's the ultimate piece that changes it. Is so it's like anything else, right? I mean, you relate it back to business. Like I can give you the perfect wheat sheet, I can give you the roadmap to success, and now you have it. And then at what lengths are you willing to go? And so it was the same thing. I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm vulnerable. My defenses are starting to break down, if you will, and then I'm just going to let go. I'm going to let go and be totally vulnerable to whatever is going to happen here. I mean, they got motherfuckers in there singing.
Yeah.
Walking across the street wearing a name badge, which I don't even wear a name badge at work, and on the back of it is a song that I'm singing. And the first time you sing that song, and it's a group of guys, right? They're all so cool. And and then by the end of it, they're singing the song like they wrote the damn thing. So it's just, I think it's that, and of course in that group of 30 people, not everybody's there yet.
Right.
And
that's what I was going to ask you. So 39. There must have been attempts prior to that to we want to improve ourselves, fix ourselves, get there. There had to be something pivotal at 39 that made you over that hump to let go fully and let God in there.
I think that I don't believe there's ever one huge thing. I think there's a continuous culmination of things that most often we miss. Right? And then when we don't miss it, we think, oh, that's the one big thing. No, that's just the one you recognized.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's going to be another one coming, and there's going to be another one coming.
Yeah, it's a multiple choice.
Yeah. And so for me at the time, going back to when I was in that deep moment when I was like, I just had to look in the mirror and go, you're fucked. Yeah. If you don't make a change, if you don't get your shit together, you're destined to be alone, and to be an alcoholic, to be a non-contributor to society. I could go on and on of how these feelings that I had for myself, and primarily because they were true. And so you make a change, which is a choice. You make a choice to make a change, and then you end up on a different direction.
Yeah.
But then once you're on that direction, those choices and changes come along over and over and over and over, which is why I don't ever think it's like one big thing. Yeah. I could tie this back to a God intervention, right? In that moment of disparity, a show came on ESPN about a guy named Todd Crandall who relived my life story for me on ESPN, right? His mother committed suicide. He became a drug addict. I was never a drug addict. So, I say that, I don't know if I should say that, but I guess maybe I'm clarifying it for myself. But I certainly had my demons, right? Alcohol being one of them. And so it was just, that was a moment where I watched that video, I emailed this guy, and an hour later he called me. Well, a year later he's in my best man at my wedding. right?
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
these are those little, now was that a huge moment? Was that the pivotal moment? No, it was a moment in the
story.
journey, because the journey is never ending. So, I mean, I can go on and on with this shit all the time, but it's like for people that don't really understand what it takes to go on that journey, because they're looking for that one big thing. And I think maybe that's why I share that, because I want people to understand there is no one big thing. There's a continuation of a ton of things. And when you're open to them, they feel big at the time, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, and then there's another one. You're like, oh, it's really not about how big it is or how impactful it is. God's been showing me the way all along. I've just been denying him, or I've been immune to it, or I've had my eyes shut, my ears closed, whatever it may be. So I think, the biggest thing that we can do in our lives is be vulnerable. When we're vulnerable, then we're open. When we're open, we can receive.
Yeah.
And our society, frankly, teaches us to do the opposite.
Right.
Right.
Closed.
Yeah. To be closed, be the tough guy. To like all this bullshit. Which is why we talked about this at team meeting today, right? Which is why so many people live an unfulfilled life.
Yeah.
And they're mad at everybody else.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So take us back to your childhood.
Okay.
I think that's probably the biggest point of forgiveness that you had to battle. So take us back to that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in an interesting situation, a sweet single-wide trailer, I'll have you know. But, my mom was a drug addict. She was very abusive, mentally fit. However you could think of being abused, I've been. And this is, I think, a great learning lesson for me, right? Is because the one thing, in fact, this just came up, literally, I'm going to go right here.
Are you an only child?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank God. I've been the only one that could live through it. But this just came up today. Actually, I'm not going to try to fucking find it, but I hate people that live in this victim mentality, this victim mindset, right? And again, though, that's so glorified in our world. Somebody could go on and post some shit on Facebook about, oh, woe is me, and blah, 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 and everyone will like it and heart it. And so it gives them that gratification that these people care about them. The fact is, none of those people really care about them, or they'd reach out to them and truly help them. But our society has taught us that being the victim or having this victim mindset gets us attention, and attention is what we've been taught to seek.
Right.
So I can't stand people with a victim mindset. I can't stand people that can't take initiative to get shit done, right?
Right.
And because I've been a victim. Right, and so if you've been a victim, you know that you can't be. When you're a victim, you're not in control.
Right, so you're giving the power to that victimization versus taking the power and using it towards good.
Yeah,
which can be a completely different story, like it is with you.
Well, people confuse what it being a victim of what, your circumstance, your day, you got a freaking flat tire, like, you know what I mean, like. These are all very small things in the scheme of life, but people make them a big deal, right? I mean, you hear somebody get a flat tire, and they got to go tell every motherfucker they know, I got a flat tire today. Oh, man, that's too bad, bro. Oh, man, did you hear I got a flat tire today? Like, nobody gives a shit, though, because really, after you tell the story, they walk away and go, okay, I had to listen to that story for 5 minutes?
Right.
so this...
But sometimes just there is power in someone overcoming something, just like... in the wound, there's healing.
Mm-hmm.
So people can see through the wound that you became healed.
Yes.
And so then that witness to them can
create
power.
I think that's, listen, to tell and share a story is not the victim mindset. The victim mindset is to well, I just go back to this definition, this epiphany that I had, because this is a big thing, right? We talk about victims. Victims don't have control. When you have control, you can't be a victim. And so it draws a very clear line in what that is, right? Somebody that is victimized has no control of their situation. Yeah. Someone that plays the victim has all the control. They just choose not to control any of it because they like the attention that it gets them to play the victim.
Right. Okay. Yep, that's a clear line. So going back, so you had abusive childhood. Yep. And then your mother took her own life.
My mother committed suicide.
Yep. How old were you at that time?
I was like 6.
6
years old. I was at home alone, couldn't find her anywhere in the house, looked all around, went in the basement, and she was hanging there. And at that time, it was like, I was alone. My dad was at work, and so I ran over, got the neighbors, they came back, cut her down, yada, yada, long story short. And, honestly, at that time, when you're that age, it doesn't affect you in the moment a lot. One thing I learned too, kids are super resilient. I don't think kids get enough, well, especially now. Listen, fucking kids are so baby nowadays.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
To their detriment.
Yeah.
And it's like, to understand how resilient kids are. And well, why are they so resilient? Well, because they don't know the other side. They don't know the difference. They haven't been taught to be a victim yet. They haven't been taught to be babied yet. They haven't learned who they're going to get over on yet. So all they know is innocence, happiness, and
forgetfulness. They forget, like, if something happens, they forget it right away.
That's exactly what I was saying. What's the next thing? Because I already forgot about the other thing. And so this conditioning that takes place for us as children as we go through our life. So I look at that like, was that the worst thing that happened to me? I don't know. After that, I lived with my dad, who, thank God, has been redeemed by the Lord as well. But from the time that happened until that happened, which was after I went to this men's retreat, I lived with somebody that was broken, that was an alcoholic, that was abusive in his own way, but then also would go from that person to give you everything you wanted.
Yeah.
Or that you thought you wanted, or that they thought you wanted, And so it was just one of those things where, without going into the depths of it, because I don't want this isn't about me. It's about what you said earlier. How do we inspire others that live through this? Because one thing that I've learned also is, like, everybody's worst thing is their worst thing. When I share my story on the depth, if I'm speaking somewhere, when it was at the men's retreat, people come up afterwards and go, oh my gosh, I thought I had it rough. I never lived through anything like that. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand. Your worst thing is your worst thing. So that means it hits you the hardest.
Yeah.
My worst thing's my worst thing. It hits me the hardest. That, I think, from a humanistic standpoint, evens us all out. Understanding that everybody has their own worst thing that they've dealt with.
Do you think that it takes you years to kind of get through the emotions that you didn't know as a 6-7-year-old kid? Did it take you to 20, 25 to, like, process that and be like, I have feelings for this, or should this affect me in a different way that it hit me? Do you spend a lot of time of your life, or did you spend a lot of your life trying to figure out, what should I do about this? And I didn't know then what I know now. Does it kind of hit you later in life?
I mean, for me, to answer the question, did I spend a lot of time thinking about it? No. Did I spend a lot of time trying to solve it? No. Did I spend a lot of time hiding it, suppressing it? Like, I think that's where your energy is directed more than anything, is how do I pretend everything is okay?
Yeah.
Right? Knowing I'm brokenhearted inside.
Right.
And so, and honestly, I sit here being 50 years old, and I've gone through this journey with my faith and my forgiveness and all that, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's what I said at a team meeting today. Like, my primary thing is this never-ending pursuit of just being the best version that I can be, because I know I can never truly attain that, so it keeps me going always.
But I think that the thing that strikes me is that you're willing to share who you truly are, and there's so many people in this world that keep it in the box, that they're not willing to be authentic, transparent, whatever you want to call it, and open up that Pandora's box of...
And they can.
Right.
They can. And that's why they don't, because they have not yet... people say that to me all the time, right? You don't care what people think, and you're just able to do and be authentic. Well, yeah, because I'm not... My happiness isn't tied to how you think about me.
Did you get there, or were you always there? Because that's a really hard thing to attain.
I think you reach a point, right, where whether you got there by necessity, whether you got there through whatever journey you go on, you reach a point where you're like, this isn't fulfilling me. This can't be what happiness is. This can't be all there is. And then, I guess the reason I say they can't be is because I believe this, you're either faking it or you're real. And no matter how anybody else views you or thinks about it, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about me, because I have one person that I'm focused on. Right? That's it.
Right.
And so now, I obviously don't want to walk through life with no one liking me, but at the same time, all I have to do is be me, have good intentions, put other people first, and gosh, if you can't like me for that, then you got your own shit to deal with. So I just don't get tied to people's opinions or thoughts or words, none of it really matters to me, you know. And so it's like in my head, I'm like, well, I don't want to sound like a prick, like I don't give a shit what you think about me. But it truly is that pure, is that I really don't give a shit what somebody thinks about me, because if they think that way about me, they haven't gotten to know me. And if they haven't got to know me, then I'm not going to let someone judge me that doesn't know me.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't matter to me.
So you're no longer, you don't drink at all, or you drink?
No, I do. I mean, if I'm being very honest, I how do you say that shit? Consciously choose moments in time, right? I don't hide from it. For me, it was about a reset, right? Like when I watched that ESPN thing, you know, I was in a bad place, and I needed to get my shit together.
When was that? When you watched that?
I don't know. I mean, it was.
Were you in real estate yet? Because
I had just gotten licensed.
Okay.
I had moved back from Canada, got back into playing hockey, just got licensed, and was still. So I'm like, okay, I should try to do something different, but I still had no really path or direction or anything. And then that episode came on, and it rerouted me. You know, as I said, this guy came on, Todd Crandall. You can find it on YouTube right now. And so I watched this, I emailed him, I drove to Ohio the next day, I met with him, and I quit drinking for years. I needed that big reset, right? So I quit drinking, I started working out like crazy, I joined freaking 5 men's leagues, hockey leagues, and then I went through and tried out for the Flint Generals and walked through that, you know, that dream that I always had as a kid, that basically at some point I chose to quit pursuing, similar to what you heard today. You know, it's so cool that we're having that conversation after what we heard today about, and what a great moment for Danny to share that. That makes me emotional, because he was able to go be vulnerable. To share with humility.
It's a deep pain.
Oh, 100%.
You know, losing out.
Yeah, 100%.
And then looking back and being able to draw from it into your future.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that's what it's all about, is we all have those things, and how we let them define us is up to us. You know, feelings are, that's the other thing, feelings are a choice. People say, oh, you know, this and that, and I'm upset, I'm stressed out, and I'm like, okay, well, you're choosing all that. You know, and at the same time, again, I think a lot of this stuff goes back to your faith and understanding that we can take our burdens and give them to the Lord, and we don't have to carry them. That was another one for me at that men's retreat, was like, there was a moment where I could just let go of everything. And
it's too much for us.
And that was like, so getting back to like, how do you be that authentic person? When I say people can't be, well, if you don't have a relationship with the Lord, you truly can't be. You're just faking it. And when you're faking it, you know it. Maybe other people don't know it, but you know it. So to be able to just really let all of that go, like literally there was a moment where you put the shit in a box and took it to the altar. And that's when, I mean, I was fucking hyperventilating up in that bitch. Because
there's a point of us that we try to, like, if you have a wound, sometimes you want to take it out and play with it, and you get feelings from it. You get a little dopamine, you know, you relive those feelings, and people can go through their whole life playing with their bad things that happened to them, replaying them in their mind for that little rush, instead of letting them go and saying, hey, I don't need this anymore. I don't want to deal with this anymore, and giving it to the Lord.
Well, because people do what's familiar to them. You know, and so we talk about a lot inside of our business, right, about stepping outside of your comfort zone. Well, the reason people don't like to step outside of their comfort zone is not just because it's uncomfortable. It's something that they don't know. They're not familiar with it. So it's easier to live in the things that you're familiar with, even if they're not serving you best. Which is fucked up. But that's how we are as humans. You know, there's, you know, self-sabotage, right? We talk about I've done that, right? You go revisit something that you know isn't going to, I mean, what used to be relationships, you know what I'm saying? Because they felt good,
right?
But they weren't serving. And honestly, that was one of those things in that moment. Like, I was sitting there with the girl I was dating at the time when I watched this ESPN thing, right? And no knock against her, it was just that moment in time, for me, and I needed to go do something different. I think this is the other thing people get so stuck in is, you know, again, our society tells us if we take care of ourselves, we're selfish. If we go to the gym, we're selfish. If all of these things, man, you have to be selfish in this world.
Right.
Because there's no, how am I going to take care of?
Who's going to do it for you?
Well, and how am I going to take care of all the people in my life if I can't take care of myself?
Right.
And so I just feel like there's, you know, I feel like every time we talk about something, I can tell you how our society, the place we live in, is teaching us all of the wrong things, especially now more than ever. And that's why I go back to your faith. When you really understand that, it gives you, you would hear moral compass. Well, I don't even know what the hell that meant until I really learned what it meant, right? It's like, that is our direction. That is our way of living. That is our way of life, is to be purposeful about serving others instead of what's in it for me. And our society, again, is what's in it for me.
Right.
So it's really interesting to talk about that, and I think it's something people don't want to talk about.
I think that when you're, you might have a whole mess in your life, and the way to take that focus off of you is to serve others. And it's very basic Christian value. Serving others, you kind of take the spotlight off yourself, and you find victories in serving others.
But what's so interesting when you say that, like I used to say to people, like, it's an impossibility to have a bad day if you make your day entirely about others.
Yeah.
Right? What happens is we make our day about us and the things we want and the outcomes we desire.
Yeah.
And when we don't experience those or achieve those or get those, then of course, it's a bad day.
Yeah.
When you make your day strictly about others,
Yeah.
it's an impossibility to have a bad day. Especially when you lead with the fact that you fucking woke up.
Yeah.
And I just think that when you strip so much stuff away, we get cluttered down with all of these material things. We get cluttered down with opinions. We get cluttered down with judgment. Often we judging ourselves, right? And we live in this cluttered world because those are the things we put our value in. Instead of just simply, wow, I woke up today.
Yeah.
People, how you doing today? Fuck, I just woke up. I'm doing great.
And working out and walking the dog, and there's people who don't have the luxury of having, a good working body, There can be a lot to be grateful for, and I think in that gratefulness, that's also, a way that you can serve yourself well, being grateful for all the things that you've been given.
100%. And I think that just that idea that if I make my day about others and serving and giving and supporting or whatever that may be, how can I have a bad day? It's not possible.
A lot of times, there's all these self-help things, and if you go right back to Christian values, you're the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
You're walking around, the Lord searches who to bless. You're
Yeah.
looking for someone to bless in your day and what you do. And just kind of getting back on track for what that does for a real estate office. It's an independent brokerage and an area where there's a lot of other real estate offices, and there's something very different here. And I do think it's partially because you don't care what people think of John Wentworth. You have a kind of an insatiable appetite for what's going on in this building.
I don't know what that means.
It means you're never satisfied.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. You're not satisfied
Yeah.
with what's going on in this building. You look around every day and you're like,
Yeah, I mean, I'll look to you for this because I don't really understand how to delineate this, right? Because satisfied, content. I mean, like I'm proud of, and I use that word very lightly, right? Because pride can be such a bad thing
yeah,
for us.
it can go either way.
But it can go either way. I think that it takes humility to be actually proud of what we have, of who we are, of what our foundation is to serve others, because there's a lot of people in all industries that are in it for one thing, and that's themselves, and that's money, right? And so on a way bigger scale, understanding who we really are at the core, yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and so you mentioned it today at the meeting, just kind of keeping everybody on task. There's two things that you are looking to achieve in your business world, and what are those two things?
Are these the two things that I shared today?
Yeah.
In my business world?
Yep, the goals that
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't know if you were talking about when we asked the question of everybody else, but it's real simple: change lives, develop people.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and this came about from a meeting we had, and again, I think everybody gets lost, and this was happening in this meeting, right? Oh, where's the next office going to be? Where's this going to do? I'm like, who gives a shit about all that stuff? All that stuff will come if we do the right thing. All that stuff will come if we focus on what's mostly important: developing people and changing lives. And then our agents being able to have that mindset and going out into the public, saying, I'm gonna help develop the people around me, and I'm gonna change the lives of the people that I get to interact with. Right? So I think that simple solves the complex.
Yeah.
You don't need to overthink all this stuff. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a mission statement that reads, an entire page, but I can't remember that stuff. And
Right.
at the end of the day, for me, it's just
Well, you can see it flowing from you, the leadership any type of company is going to flow through the people.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see your attitudes toward things and, you know, the way you deal with things. And you can see it if you, you know, just go into the main area. There's 3 people right now sitting helping each other with their business. 3 very different people.
Personalities, yeah.
Different personalities. And they're just going to sit down and they're going to get to it and try to
I mean, I just
help each
took
other.
all the things that I saw coming up in real estate that I thought were flawed and broken, and then did the things that really worked well for us to grow. I mean, you know, I see right now people trying to build teams because it's cool. It's the new thing to do. Like, we built a team out of necessity because I never wanted to miss one single piece of business. So, I mean, it was me and Stacy. Then it was me, Stacy, and Jason. Then it was me, Stacy, Jason, and Brooke. Then it was me, Stacy, like, I had friggin' 4 assistants before I had a buyer's agent or, you know, any of that shit, because for me it was all about how do we support the business. So we just continue to take that over into, as we grew, how do we support the agent's business so that they can focus on serving and their clients, right? I kind of went off track there with that, but
Yeah, no, it's good. Do you want to end here or do you want to
No,
keep
I'm
on
good.
going? Okay. So, with the agents that are here and where you're at right now, I know you have a bigger vision. Maybe it's not a vision, but it's a yearning to do more, to change more lives.
So that goes back to, you know, the question that I did ask everybody, right? When I forecasted this to the team, what's your primary desire? As I don't know how I worded it. Do you remember what I said?
Yeah, it was your primary and your secondary
Yes,
desire.
but it was not desire though. It was like primary focus.
Focus,
What's your
yeah.
primary focus? What's your secondary focus? And so for me, my primary focus is never tied to something that stops. Right? Like, if my primary focus were to make $1 million, I'd be fucking done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then what do you do?
Right. And at one point I was like, wow, that'd be amazing. Now I don't even give a shit about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because my primary focus is back to changing lives and developing people. And the primary focus for me personally is that never-ending pursuit of being the next best version of myself, which has no end to it.
Right.
Because of all that.
Well, you're either moving, you're always going to move in a direction. You're going to move forward or you're going to move back. And I think that that's a really great mission statement for yourself because it always keeps you, there's a little bit more down the road.
A little bit more. Listen, there is no stagnant. If you're stagnant, you're moving backwards.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a fact, you know, and so in business, like, well, if you're not growing, you're dying. No, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Right.
Because somebody else has a different mindset where they're not taking their foot off the gas at any point in time. So going back to that, to your question, is like, that primary focus for me is the never-ending pursuit of just being a little bit better each day, because I can never fully attain that, which means when I'm 95, I'll be saying the same shit.
Yeah.
Right? Also accepting my faults, accepting when I fail, giving myself grace to regroup and go again, right? Which was something that I struggled with a lot before having a relationship with God. But then that other primary focus outside of myself is essentially the same thing, changing lives and developing people. Well, how many people? All of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people, when's enough, John? Never.
Right.
Never. There's another Jake out there I can change his life. There's another Danny out there I can change his life. There's another Adam out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's another Sarah Minter. I can go on and on and on about the people that have walked in this building, and we've helped develop them, and we've changed their lives, right? And they do that with us. It's not like some magic wand we wave.
Yeah.
And
I talked to Jake today, and he was talking about how, you know, he did come in and he learned from the agents that were here, and then now he's feeding that right back into the system, which, you know, is the way you're working, and it is very successful in the business model. Again, I say that it's a lot. This office is different than a lot of real estate offices out there, and that is one thing that attracted me.
this chair's different too, because it's squeaky. Your mother scratching.
But it's something that attracts people here is the differences.
Yeah. Well, isn't that funny though? Because everybody wants to be the same as everybody else most of the time.
Yeah, and they see something, they're going to try and duplicate it, but that's where you're the OG, man.
Listen, I'm not even close to the OG. I'm the OV.
Well, for this, you the OME, and
I'm
this.
just doing me, you know. And I think that it goes back to what we talked about. You know, people live in this. You know, I think maybe that's the tie into when I say I don't care what people think. I'm not interested in people that are filled with judgment. Ain't judging me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I certainly care what people that I love. You know, so it's not to be, yes,
It's not a cocky thing.
No, it's just there's a difference between cocky and confidence, and neither one of them really is what I'm talking about right now. It's like I have people in my life that have permission to come forward and shake me when I need to be shook. Right now, if I'm somebody else that hasn't even dreamt of doing the shit I've done, doesn't get the right to shake me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just that's kind of the thing, but. Yeah, we're different. There's no doubt about it, you know.
Tell me about, because I love there's a lot of sports analogies that kind of flow into the business world and make the business world more powerful. Talk about horses. What's your horse history?
Why am I so tied to horses? I think here's why I'm tied to horses. I never touched a horse in my life. I went to the racetrack when I was 18 or whatever the hell old I was in 12th grade, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And so against all odds, I did it, right? And it really taught me that when you're passionate about something, you can achieve anything you want to achieve.
What did you do?
Well, I started cleaning freaking stalls, and then from there I started jogging horses, working with horses, ended up being an owner, trainer, a driver of horses. Now we have thoroughbreds, but when I was hands-on, it was standardbreds, like out at, harness racing, yeah, sulkies, blah, 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 blah. But for me, really, what I learned was the self-discovery of just that animal, right? Of like, okay, at one point I think I had 26 horses, so I'm like, oh, I have 26 kids now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And listen, as good as I can paint that, I was also still broken at that time, right? But it taught me a lot about compassion. I think it taught me a lot about hard work. It taught me a lot about personalities of people, because you're working with so many different levels of people, from the guy that cleans stalls for a living, right, to the owners that have millions. And there's some of those guys that are nice and humble, and there's some of those guys that are dickheads, right? And so it teaches you really about people. And that, honestly, to this day is what I love most about the industry. Like when we had horses racing Derby Day, I wanted to be in the back in the barn talking to the guy cleaning the stalls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I do that often. I like to be around just authentic people.
Right. Doing what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're still involved with horses.
Yep.
What in what capacity?
We own thoroughbreds.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and actually this Sunday I'm pretty cool. I'm going to Lansing to talk about thoroughbred ownership.
Okay.
To a bunch
cool.
of people in the Michigan which there isn't even thoroughbred racing in Michigan. Anyway, it's just one of those passions for me, you know. So.
And you'll just keep on doing that till you're 113.
As long as I have money.
Yeah, horses are expensive.
There's no doubt about that. But the experiences that we've had with my friends and with our family have been just amazing through owning thoroughbreds. Racing on Kentucky Derby Day 2 years in a row, winning multiple stake races, traveling. Just awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my dad used to go to the horse races, and he'd say he's going to put $2 on the nose of the horse.
And you're like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. It was interesting. It was a good people watching event for
100%, yeah.
Kids Day.
It takes all kinds to be up in there.
When he would win, he'd bring home the money, and he'd give away the dirty dollars. Any dollar that wasn't fit to be in his wallet, he'd be throwing out to the kids.
That's funny.
It was always a good memory.
Maybe that meant anything that was actually $1 instead of a 50 or
Yeah,
100.
exactly. He wasn't always successful. He win a lot.
Well, next time, let's fast forward. Let's jump into some more business. Let's jump into something that, I think your idea of this is like people that think about where they're going to spend the rest of their life in their career, because that's what I always think about. So often agents are like, oh, this and that and my split and this lead or that lead. I'm like, okay, great, all that should exist everywhere you go. How are you going to live out your career? How are you going to find fulfillment, happiness, joy in your career, and also sustainability and security? Because here we are, it's February 2023, and we have agents that are absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
They're at 5 million already in 2 months.
Yeah.
Right. And so that plugging yourself into that sustainability from a business side.
A proven business plan that you've shared with the people who come on board to make them successsul, and it's duplicatable. We've talked about it from the day I started here. It's the process. Follow the process. We shared at the meeting today. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yep.
Not 1, 6, 5.
Yep.
3,
just
2.
follow the shit.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
And not everybody's willing to share their business plan.
Well, that's not the
with
business
everybody.
plan. That's the plan today, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how you're going to get from 0 to 1 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It's just and why share it? Well, I mean, shit. My job is to make sure they're successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And why kind of continue to.
But you see a lot of brokerages nowadays, and they're just collecting bodies.
Well, yeah,
and I don't think they have a plan to.
Well, I mean, listen, the model of the typical brokerages is broken. It has been.
Yeah.
Just nobody challenged it, and that's why you see the biggest real estate teams, essentially in different areas, are all teams because they're based on a team model.
Yeah.
So they're based on a totally different model than brokerages. Brokerages are based on, I'll give you whatever the frickin' split you want.
Individual
I don't
success.
care. But yeah, but there's hardly ever somebody super successful in any of those brokerages anymore either.
Yeah.
And usually if there is, it's one person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here we've got 17 people on track to make 100,000 already this year, right? It's about everyone instead of
and giving everybody a chance.
Yeah, for sure.
Which everybody deserves.
100%.
So.
Well, deserves is another word. I would choose.
You gotta know something about John.
You gotta
John's-
earn the shit.
Yeah, John's very particular about the words he uses.
Listen, the words we choose matter. I mean,
Yeah.
everything we say matters,
Yes.
right? It's hard for people to listen to themselves. So listen to the people around you. Listen to the words they choose. Listen to the times that they blame, right? The times that they shun responsibility. I mean, it's just on and on and on all day long, right? Well, I would have if.
Right.
Well, I hope.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I hope. None of that shit works.
Right.
And you get to own your outcomes. And it's like participation trophy shit.
Yeah.
That's where our world is. And if you like participation trophies, this ain't the place for you.
Right.
Right? Because what I know is that nobody that grew up appreciating and accepting and desiring just to participate is going anywhere fast.
Yeah.
And so when people say, well, I deserve it. No, you don't deserve shit.
Right.
You don't deserve anything. By the grace of God, you were born. And now you're an adult, and now you have choices to make. And I like to think about, like, have I earned this? So I don't even like when people pat on the back or this or that. I said, did I really earn that? What have I really done to earn that? Well, you did this, great. Okay, but I still got so much more to do.
Right.
Because the thing that I'm trying to earn, well, I've already earned it. It's eternal, actually, which is pretty cool. But the words people use are so interesting when you think about it. You can hear their words and it'll tell you a lot about where they're at in life and where they're headed or maybe not headed.
Yeah. Dirty words.
Dirty words.
Dirty words. I don't like them. All right. Good for today?
Good for today. Let's
rock it
let's
out.
go rock.
Squeeze some more out of this day.
I got 3 more critical tasks to get done.
Yes.
Hotter than shit in here too.
I know.
Peace.
Smells out of
Thank
this
you
place.
guys.